Okay, can you hear me? Okay. All right, we're going to get started here. Welcome to the ELGL Technology Efficiency Webinar. Each month, ELGL highlights a tech tool that helps make your life easier, your work more efficient. This month, we're going to discuss LinkedIn, as you may have seen, a tool that you may already be using and familiar with, but today we're going to expose you to some new and interesting ways to get more from it. My name is Dan Weinheimer. I'm the Deputy County Manager from Routt County, Colorado, and an ELGL Executive Board member. It's my pleasure to moderate today's session. Trying to work through my own technical difficulties here, but bear with me. ELGL is, as you know, a big tent local government organization, and we work to connect, communicate, and educate our members on a variety of local government topics, and today is no exception. Today we're excited to have Emma Nicole representing LinkedIn. At LinkedIn, Emma works to assist organizations and individuals in establishing their brands through leveraging creative content. Content posted on social platforms like LinkedIn can result in collaboration or professional opportunities. And Emma actually has a personal story that I think she's able to share right now that really speaks to this, the professional opportunities that come through publishing your own creative content.
Thanks, Dan, and hello, everyone. It's really wonderful to be invited in to chat to the community today. I'm thrilled to be here. So thanks for that great introduction. And yeah, you know, I actually have a background in media and communications. I did a screenwriting degree at university. So maybe I just have a propensity to want to share content. But LinkedIn and being, a employee here has kind of really given me the opportunity to understand how the content that I'm sharing kind of has an impact on my professional career and I guess my success in my own role. Couple of examples. The first one is really just a general comment about, you know, each time I post a comment on LinkedIn or share an update or even share some blog posting, some long form blog posting, which I'm going to show you how to do a little later. I track who is interacting with those posts, and often if I see someone who, you know, I've been trying to have a conversation with or trying to start a relationship with from a business perspective, I'll reach out and say, hey, you know, thanks for interacting, and, you know, can we have a one-to-one conversation? I think, though, the best example and something I'd like to kind of share with you guys to be involved is we have an opportunity here at LinkedIn to generate these things called in-maps. An in-map is like a virtual or a visual, I should say, a visual representation of any LinkedIn members' community, so their own network. And I was at a big CIO. Oh, are we having audio issues? I'm unmuted, but we're getting some chats. Dan, can you weigh in here? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I am
okay.
seeing some questions, but yeah, it looks like a mixed bag.
I should continue?
There.
Okay, I'll continue. I just want to make sure at least some people can hear me. If you're having internet issues, I'm afraid that's out of our control. I'm sorry, guys. So back to the in-maps. I went to a pretty high-profile event that was designed for state CIOs. So there were about maybe 90% of the state CIOs from all across the country in one room. And you can imagine this is an event that's held for tech salespeople like myself to interact with these high-profile people and, you know, clearly get their foot in the door to sort of explain how they might generate a professional partnership. And one of the things that I did before I went to that event is I printed out an in-map for every CIO that I wanted to talk to. And I kind of sort of approached them personally and handed them over this in-map and explained to them, you know, this is a visual representation of your in-map. It's a piece of content that I've created. So we're talking here in the real world rather than the, you know, the online networking event. And the coolest thing happened. Some of these CIOs actually took a photo of these in-maps because they're pretty damn cool and they're each very unique. And they posted them to their own networks. I did a similar thing. I posted that I was going to be handing these out and that, you know, if I couldn't get hold of those individuals, they should come and find me. I was twittering out to the events organizers as well, so to get on their live feed. And from there, I actually built a relationship with the CIO of Maricopa County. It's one of the biggest counties in Arizona that I've been trying to get an introduction to a long time, because he actually commented on the CIO of Arizona, who I did indeed meet at the event. And this second CIO commented back to Arizona CIO and said, wow, this is really cool. How on earth did you get this? And I was tracking all the interactions, which made a great opportunity for me to go ahead and reach out to that individual and say, that was my content. I can download one of these for you too. We should chat. And hey presto, it's now, a few months in, and we're having commercial discussions, which is, how I pay my bills. So a kind of nice example of how we went from offline to online and back to offline again. All through really the power of some unique content. And that's my story.
That's great. So a little bit of housekeeping before we continue. So before we really dive into the meat of this presentation, I want to let you know that microphones and conference phones are muted. Obviously, as we're tracking some of the chat, please do use that chat box. That's the way to ask questions. It should be on the left side of your screen, and to let us know if there are any technical issues. We will be live tweeting, as we always do, live tweeting today's webinar. So follow along. The hashtag is ELGL Tech. And be sure to include the Twitter handle for Emma. It's at Emma Nicole with 2 L's. For linking her into this whole thing. And speaking of LinkedIn, you can also connect with her on LinkedIn. And again, remember, it's Emma Nicole with 2 L's. So with that, Emma and I have talked about this. We're going to do a few questions back and forth to kind of kick things off and keep it a little more interactive rather than just everyone staring at a screen. So Emma, there are clearly a lot of social media platforms. Why should we use LinkedIn?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I would hope that most people are on LinkedIn, but perhaps not everyone. We have about 80% of the professional workforce in America, so it might be representative in this group well. If you all are, then I would suggest some of these points might be useful for perhaps the naysayers in your lives. Look, it's not a fact that you need to be exclusive. I'm certainly not here saying, you need to use LinkedIn and instead of others. I certainly am on many, many different social media platforms. And the reasons why I use LinkedIn and have done so before I worked here, they are really personal. And I think that's really important point, because every social media network that you're going to be on is a personal experience for yourself. And therefore, you have your own objectives, whether you've thought these through or not for each of them. You'll find that your use of Instagram versus Pinterest versus LinkedIn will be for different causes and different goals. But for me, for LinkedIn, the reasons why I am such a huge champion is because it has absolutely helped me in my career. It's helped me find new roles, whether I didn't even know I wanted to move jobs. When I was approached by LinkedIn to work for them, I was working for Australia's sort of number one female entrepreneur. She's one of the judges on our version of the Shark Tank in Australia, and I was kind of like her 2IC, and I was happiest that I thought I'd ever been. But LinkedIn reached out to me, and so began a beautiful relationship. It's also helped me, reach my sales targets or reach my own KPIs. It's helped me to learn and develop myself. One of the things that I've always had a passion for, and that I wanted to continue to grow in my adult life, was doing public speaking and sharing knowledge, and becoming sort of a trusted advisor in my field. And so me doing this right now is really a point in time to prove that LinkedIn is indeed helping me meet those things. I'd say why should you think about using LinkedIn, perhaps maybe more or in a different way than you are? Is again going back to thinking about what are your objectives. We have a saying here at LinkedIn. It's sort of one of our sort of key values, that we're a members first organization, and that means that we put our individual members' kind of perspectives or needs, what's integral to their use of LinkedIn before we put anything else. So before our commercial activity, what we let companies and other sort of stakeholders do on LinkedIn, we think about how this is going to impact the member. And I think it's really important for individual members to think about them, those objectives yourselves as well. Another way of spinning this is to think about how you use your time on your different social networks. So I like to say to my clients, and indeed, to my friends and family, that we don't want you to waste time on LinkedIn. We want you to invest the time. And that might mean that you spend less time on LinkedIn than you might do on Facebook or Instagram, and that's totally fine. When I start to think about how I use or where I use these different social networks, I will fire up Facebook and Instagram when I'm waiting for the subway far more commonly than I do LinkedIn, because I'm wasting time, right? I'm hoping that these few minutes before the next subway turns up will go faster. And so my objective for using Facebook usually is, to just lose that time and speed it up and, not be bored, which is completely credible use of social media. And it helps me every day to pass those little moments in time. When I think about how I use LinkedIn, I'm certainly not wasting the time. I'm thinking about, okay, how will this interaction impact me, my career, my professional growth, the objectives that I have sort of laid out. And I don't really think you need to separate these from your objectives in the real world, continuously exerting yourself in your professional career. I think these things can be absolutely enmeshed. So, if your goal is to get that promotion, or if your goal is to, reach a learning milestone, then LinkedIn will be able to help. Certainly, the first one, I've helped myself get promoted via mentorships and by reaching out to people at organizations, that I've got a vested interest in, whether it's to work from them or to learn from them. And that's been really, really helpful. But really, it's personal preference. We do have no equal, in the professional space. We now have 500 million members, or as I like to say, 500 million members. It's kind of fun using those big numbers. And as I said, about 145 million members in the United States alone. So, if you do have goals in the professional space, then I would say you should absolutely be on LinkedIn. And if you're not, I think you're probably doing yourself a disservice.
That's really helpful. I mean, I think, your point about having a goal in mind, kind of leads me to my next question in a way, which is that,
Sure.
I feel like a lot of people, you get those random connection requests. A lot of people are using it for leads, for other purposes, and I certainly get a lot of requests from people I'm not familiar with in my industry and in parallel industries. People who want to sell me something, maybe. So the question, I guess, is what's the protocol? Do I have to accept all those? I know the protocol used to be that you had to accept all requests. That was sort of the mentality behind LinkedIn. But has that changed?
I think so. I mean, look, I think that mentality helped us immensely, because the number one thing that LinkedIn members do on our platform, they engage with content, but they look at people's profiles, right? We're all stalking each other all the time, and that's a good thing. I personally don't like it when I see these, open network people. I still don't know what the lion thing even means. I think it was kind of before I really got serious about LinkedIn that all kicked off. And again, I'm going to push to personal preference here, because people have their own opinions, and that's completely fine. The rule that I use is, what would I do if this was in real life? So I ask myself when I get a connection request, and I get random ones all the time as well, is, would I accept a business card from this person? Or if I was in a networking event and they approached me, would I have a conversation with them? Or would I do that awkward thing where I kind of, shuffle about and, go out to get another drink, or like accidentally drop some, canapes on myself and have to make a quick exit? If the answer to those last questions is yes, I would do that, then I would definitely not accept them. But really, I think a diverse network is a good thing. So I'm lucky enough to have worked in London and Sydney, and now in New York. Really a big bucket list thing for me to do that. So my network is global, but it's also very very diverse in the types of people from sort of all walks of industry. And I love that because I get perspectives in my news feed that help me. You know, if I was just connected to salespeople in tech organizations based out of Silicon Valley, then I would be in this echo chamber of only seeing content and perspectives that match, I guess, me and my career path exactly. And that would be really boring. I don't know how much time people spend on their newsfeed, but you know, we've done really well at aggregating news and content to people based on what their profile says about them, and therefore, you know, we have a far wider readership than really any of the newspapers in America put together. So we are a publishing platform right now, which is awesome. But what I really like to read is the insights and the shares from people in my community. So yeah, I tend to run with that rule of if it was in real life, what would I do with it? But I have no problem in culling people who are infecting my feed with stuff that I don't like. So it's absolutely fine to disconnect with people. I do that probably, you know, maybe a couple of times a month. And I think that's important to make sure that the integrity of your news feed is really your own responsibility. I've seen people ranting about, you know, LinkedIn's becoming Facebook. And I think to them, well, your LinkedIn might be, but mine isn't. And, you know, if we all kind of keep that sort of filter going, then those sort of activities of, you know, sharing not, I guess, inappropriate content on LinkedIn, to my opinion, will hopefully decrease or at least be invisible to me. Is that helpful? I mean, certainly it's my idea. Oh, sorry?
I was just saying you need to curate a little bit. You need to actually take some responsibility to clean out. If you've got a problem with someone who's posting on your feed, you want to already take care of that yourself rather than passively just being frustrated.
Yeah, I think so, and they won't know that you disconnected from them, you know. So, yeah, I think it's a case of if you were at a networking event and some annoying person was, you know, ranting and raving and being inappropriate, you'd probably walk off. So, you know, and not maybe throw out their business cards. So, I think the same rule applies on LinkedIn. Yeah.
So, you know, my dive into the meat of your presentation. What do you say to people who are worried about being active on LinkedIn that's a trigger for their organization that they're looking for a job?
Yeah, it's a great question and one I get all the time. And I've actually got a few points on this. I want to kind of answer the question, but also, I guess, give a little bit of insight on the flip side of that as well, which maybe people will be interested in. Look, I would say previously when, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years back or even earlier when, you know, LinkedIn really was about an online inventory of your professional experience and, you know, who you're connected to. It was really a pure networking environment rather than a publishing environment. Then, yeah, I think your leaders will probably be right in that. I'm going to be, you know, I guess a little bit challenging here and say, personally, if I felt that I was working for an organization that had that mentality, right, that I felt that I couldn't be seen to be on LinkedIn at work, then actually I think it's probably time to look for a new job. You know, we are in an environment now that, you know, if you aren't in a trusted environment at work, then there are great opportunities out there. You know, people are looking for great talent. This is what I do. This is my bread and butter. This is, you know, how I pay my bills, is help organizations to use LinkedIn to find great employees. So if you feel you need to look over your shoulder, then yeah, trust isn't there. And if it was me, I'd be on my way out anyway. But let's answer the question in itself. I think data is the best way to answer this. So believe it or not, there are 9 billion content impressions. I'll explain what that is. A content impression is every individual time a set of eyeballs connects with a piece of content on LinkedIn. So if I'm looking at a piece of news on LinkedIn and you're looking at the same piece of news on LinkedIn, that's an impression. If I go back and look at that same piece of news tomorrow, that's another impression. So 9 billion content impressions are happening on LinkedIn every single week, right? And content, so things other than jobs, are viewed 15 times more than job ads themselves. So the amount of activity on LinkedIn of consuming and interacting and sharing information is way, way outstripping the activity on jobs. So, perhaps, they should be honest with themselves that, look, careers are liquid, and the opportunity to be open to new opportunities is always going to be there. And I think any organization that puts a head in the sand about that is always going to lose the win for talent. Data again, we now have 20 million members are viewing and applying for jobs every single week. That's global. These numbers are global, but again, that is just tiny in comparison to the 9 billion content impressions. The other thing, I guess this doesn't really change what their perspective is unless you share this. But I like to challenge it by saying, asking leaders to consider their employees' activity on LinkedIn as an asset. So some more numbers here. Nielsen released a study that shared that 33% of people don't trust brands or organizations based on what they say about themselves. But 90% of people trust the opinions and the recommendations of people they know. So you as an asset as the organization is huge. This idea of employee advocacy, it can be incredibly powerful. So if you think about the risk reward, sure, like a few people might be, open to chatting to someone else about a job, or, maybe they're updating their profile because, they do want out. We've got to be upfront about that. But the opportunity for the reward is absolutely phenomenal. If we think about when employees are sharing content, they're innovating, they're learning, perhaps attracting new followers to their organization, and of course, attracting talent. We all know that it's really tough to get great new talent into the public sector right now. And usually the people in the organization will know great people who are a really good fit, both culturally and also with the right skill set, right? Nurses know nurses, corrections officers know corrections officers, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea of not allowing or being resistant to colleagues being on LinkedIn is a really narrow view and a missed opportunity, I think. A quick story. There's a guy who started at LinkedIn in my Sydney office, I think, as pretty much the most junior sort of role you can get. And you have these roles called sort of sales developers and sort of sales assistants. They get attached to people like me. And he has climbed, his career has gone bananas, and he credits it to the content that he was sharing on LinkedIn. He actually became the second highest contributor in the APAC region. And his credibility just went through the roof, right? Because we had people like our CEO and, our APAC managing director, as well as a huge community of people globally reading his stories, seeing his updates because he was gaining followers and connections all the time. And that stuff actually became more important than his resume, than his profile. People trusted him and could see that he was capable, had a great voice, was a great writing style. And he's since moved to San Francisco and, has a really fairly senior job now. I think like 24, 25 years old. So, here's, a great opportunity for LinkedIn to grow this individual and to share trust and, really kind of put him up on a pedestal, but also for him to kind of jump many layers of, promotional sort of ladders by being active on LinkedIn with a clear objective of, I want to be seen, I want to be known, and I want to be trusted. My last point on
he really
this,
did rock the profile then.
He really did rock the profile. Yeah. I'll share his profile actually after this, and people can check him out. Chris, I've forgotten his last name, but yeah, he's absolutely killing it. The last piece of this kind of refers back to the first point, this idea of maybe you should start looking for a job. And I wanted to share with you a new functionality that LinkedIn has launched. I'll live demo this towards the end, but It's called Open to Opportunities, and it's basically a way you can privately flag on your profile that you're open to talk about your career with other organizations. This is kept hidden from anyone in your own organization, and it's only available to people who buy a recruiting tool from us. It's called Recruiter. So you're completely safe from being, I guess, letting the cat out of the bag for your bosses and your peers. But it does give you the ability to kind of say, hey, I'm open to chatting if you are. So I'll share that later.
Great. Well, I don't want to take any more time from the content of the webinar. So, from here on out, let's rock this. Let's show everyone.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm just going to click on the share my screen up here. Then I'm going to jump into this. I'm on presenter view. So Dan, if you can just confirm you can see that.
Yep, we can see it.
Great. Okay, cool. So this is me, everybody. I'm giving you a virtual high five wave from my profile picture right here. I'm going to whip through these because I don't know about you, but death by PowerPoint's a pretty unpleasant way to go. So if you've got questions, do push them out to Dan as we go through, and he'll relay them to me, and we can keep this conversational. But I just kind of wanted to start by just sharing a bit of vision and mission. So it kind of points back to the point that I said before about, being a member-first organization. So we really do have a big goal of creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. I'm here in New York because I, made it clear to my boss that this was a place that I wanted to go and live and work. And I happen to work for LinkedIn. But my use of the network has been probably the number one reason that I've been successful in selling to people. Let's be clear. I'm here sharing best practice, but I'm a salesperson. I want to be known as more than that, thinking about personal brand. I'm certainly more than just a saleswoman. But I think about my sort of 3D view of my professional, sort of personality. That's kind of how I think about personal brand. And, really it's been driven by using this network the way that feels comfortable for me. We also are all about, helping people be productive and successful. There are lots of different tools in here. Sometimes can be overwhelming. Certainly, I use connecting with people, and I use, sharing content as probably the two key ways that I've driven economic opportunity for myself. And certainly, if I was going back to cold calling, I would not be as efficient as I am today. So let's push into building a great profile, and I'm going to start off with adding a photo. I don't know if anyone wants to share if they don't have a profile picture on their own account, but I would really, really recommend that you get this done. I actually think that having a profile without a picture is in some way more damaging than it is good, because it kind of equates to, if we go back to the real world, being in a networking event with a paper bag over your head. I think it just really it speaks to a level of maybe lack of self-confidence that may or may not be accurate, but it's not the way that you're going to get ahead in life or on LinkedIn, is to hide yourself under a bushel, and the data speaks to that. So people with photos get 9 times more connection requests, 20 more times profile views, and 36 times more messages. Now you might be thinking, I don't want any more messages or profile requests. Well, you need to think about your objectives again. So, let's say I'm going to make something up ridiculous. Let's say that, I want to shift my career into being an astrophysicist, I need to add that detail in my profile, and I need to make myself, attractive in some way, or at least, an influencer into the astrophysics marketplace in order to gain connections and to, gain traction in that space. So, if I don't have a profile picture, I'm unlikely to be trusted as well. It's a key one. Also, industry. So I'm going to show you how to do this in a moment, but adding your industry, we will receive 9 times more profile views. 300,000 people search by industry on LinkedIn every week. So, you might want to choose government administration because I would assume everyone here is in that industry. Or you might want to choose, let's say, if you are in a PIO role or if you are in a finance role, you might want to choose that industry. So it's not linked absolutely to, what your organization says it is. You can pivot on that and, redefine yourself the way you want. Draft a compelling summary. I think this is key as well. And I think this is where the transition from a resume into a LinkedIn profile really stands out. So absolutely write in the first person. So you can see here, Jill said, I have more than 10 years experience. I've seen so many painful LinkedIn profiles of like CEOs and, even not even that, like senior people that have, tried to write it from the point of their executive assistant, which is just cringy. So don't do that. Write it from the heart and put something, personal in here as well. I've, put in here a mine about, my move to New York and big deal that is for me. Because, again, I want people to get a sense of who I am as a human being beyond, just the fact that I'm a salesperson. There are enough, cowboy sales guys out there that I want to separate myself from there. The next point is detailing a work experience. So some people like to keep this short and sweet. That's absolutely fine. You can see that Jill here has done, more information in her current. I could probably open out these descriptions to see more. You might just want to put a couple of lines, but make sure you're selling yourself by adding in here information about projects, information about what your day-to-day looks like, because it's going to give a really sort of humanistic view of you, and it's going to make you more, I guess, available, and therefore you'll have the ability to use that influence for good. The next point is, here we go, adding examples of work. You can actually now upload photos, presentations, slide shares, even videos of the work that you've done. Really important in creative fields. I've seen a great example of a builder who's using this fantastically and posting up, drone footage of, the projects that he's worked on, which looks really cool, and a great example of how, I guess the blue collar market is moving into LinkedIn. Also, skills and endorsements. Up to you if you want to add these. I personally do because they help with search results. You can see here, members with 5 or more skills are found up to 27 more times by recruiters with search. And as you can tell, this is a cobbled together slide, not as beautiful as the rest of them that my beautiful internal comms team put together. Diane is she is a social media consultant who I work with in Sydney, and she's just fantastic. And she shared this with me. It's kind of a dummy account that she's put up, but it really slams it home that your 120 character headline is prime real estate, so use it to differentiate yourself. Mine says government specialist, right? Nothing too flashy, because I want to speak to government agencies who probably wouldn't love it if I said I'm a government guru, that wouldn't necessarily build trust. And also, I can't stand the evangelists and the gurus. I don't connect with people who put those kind of things in their profile usually, because it's not my cup of tea. There again is, a point to the personal kind of would I or wouldn't I. But I think this really slams home this idea of make yourself more than one-dimensional on LinkedIn. Maybe think of this as your own mission statement or your own little brand jingle. If you were a cereal brand, how would you sell yourself? I've seen workshops that I've ran with people, writing them for each other. So if that's hard to think of yourself, maybe turn to your colleague and say, hey, what is it that I do that makes an impact, and use things like helping or, helping the government to attract great talent, for example, could be one of mine. So this idea of really kind of sharing your agency, the thing that you're driven, it will really make you stand out. All right, we're nearly there. Next piece is on content. So really recommend following companies so that you get their news in your home feed as well. You can see the content as they're pushing out. Make sure you're following companies that you respect or that you are trying to gain market share from. Maybe you're trying to get talent from these people. It's always fine to, keep tabs on the competition. I know that's slightly different in your space. Maybe it's more about keeping tabs on agencies who are doing really good work that you want to copy. That's completely fine. And also make sure that you're following people in your organization that you can share their content as well. Help your colleague brothers and sisters out by giving them more viral impact. Following influencers, I'm pushing on here. Influencers are sort of like big name bloggers. So people like Bill Gates, Richard Branson, my old boss is one of them, the Shark Tank lady I told you about. So they're regularly posting kind of official thought leadership that you can then share and grow from and, boost your credibility by pushing that out. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is updates versus publishing. So updates is sharing a quick update, maybe a piece from the New York Times about something you're interested in. Maybe you add a little comment like, check this out, guys, or, really interesting topic. Publishing is more deep analysis or, sharing of your opinion on a topic or a current event, for example. I'll show you briefly how to do that in a moment. That's what a status update looks like. It's probably pretty obvious for you guys. Links and images, really important. If you don't add an image to an update, it will get lost. And then publishing really is, I think, the number one way that you can very quickly boost yourself into that idea of a thought leader, which, I know the team at ELGL, you guys are thought leaders, right? You joined this community in order to innovate and generate change. So why not blog about that? You'll find that your leaders will probably take more notice of you when you're sharing your passion and influencing people in the wider community. An example is, if you were to walk past, I don't know, a mayor or a city manager, county administrator in the hallway, and they were to stop and say, hey, John, I just noticed that, your post on our new recycling scheme has had 10,000 hits. You're immediately going to elevate your position in the organization as, a big deal versus walking past them. You've shared something, maybe with, your immediate team that really has never got any traction beyond that. So publishing on LinkedIn is really easy. You do it from your homepage. There's a little button where you can either click an update, or if you see the write an article, click on that. It'll open up a blogging dashboard like this. You can add images, you can change the size of your content, you can add video, and then when you publish it, it'll push out to the homepage like this. Make sure you go and share it to your network. Ask your company administrator to share it to the company followers, and that's where you're going to get more and more viral activity. You can track it. I always do this so that I can make sure the types of audience that I'm seeing getting traction on my posts are the types of people that I'll write for next time. Yeah, so it's a real-time kind of feedback so that I can gain, I guess, better followers and better engagement next time, because I'm writing the sorts of things that are going to resonate the most. All right, that's my last slide. Any questions on this so far? I'm probably going to take 5 minutes to show you some tips on the live environment. But anything anyone wants to? It
looked like there were a couple questions.
Okay.
One, just saw the picture comment there, and so the last comment was the headshot picture, or is there a different type of picture that you would recommend for a profile picture? I would imagine
absolutely.
That has a lot to do with how you want to be seen out there.
Yeah. I've seen some horrors. So I found one woman in a bubble bath once. All of her extremities were covered by bubbles, but still, it made me pause. Let's say, I actually have a really good sort of playbook on this that I'll share via the group, and you guys can push it out. But really, it's about being sort of approachable. So head to camera, smile at the camera. Don't be looking off to somewhere else. I recommend having head and shoulders, but if you want to do further away, that's completely fine. I like to change it up
Avoid
a bit.
the bathtub, maybe.
Yeah, not in the bathtub. Yeah, so you can see I'm in black and white. I like to change mine maybe every year, just so people kind of get reminded of what I look like, and that I'm changing, and that people are just fascinated by pictures, right? I would say play around with it. Can you see my homepage right now?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. I'm just going to show you briefly how to do this. So if I click on me and then view profile here, I come into my profile, and this is where I edit my profile. I'd say if there are any takeaways from this, I would ask you to click on this little pencil up here, and this edit intro piece has got so many aspects of what we've just covered. So you can edit your image here, just uploading it. But the cool thing is that there's filters and adjustments. You can crop your photos. If you've got a bigger photo that you want to just hone in on, you can actually do that native in LinkedIn. You don't need to be editing your photo, on Paint or whatever it is, Photoshop. You can actually do it in LinkedIn now. So that's pretty cool. While I'm here, why don't I also show you that in this section here is where you can upload a background image. We've recently, probably in the last sort of 6 to 9 months, added these. So you can see I've got a picture of New York City. It used to be Sydney. It's pretty obvious why I'm doing that. But you can upload an image and really kind of give yourself a bit more flavor. That's a good example. This is where you'd also update your industry, update your summary, where you can upload links like your projects to kind of give a more rounded view of who you are. And the last thing I want to share on this is that you can change whether your network gets updated about these edits in real time or not. So I've said no because I only want my network to be updated if, say, for example, I get a promotion, right? Like if I get a new job, I want that to go out because that's important, and it'll probably gain some traction, and it's good news. It's just updating. So, for example, I regularly have to update how many members we have, right? I don't want that to push out because people might think I've got a new job, or they're confused about, hang on, why has Emma updated her profile, right? So you can just click yes or no here to update that and hit save. I haven't made any changes, so I'm just going to come out of that. But yeah, this little toggle here is a really good place to get started to make a big difference to your profile. Update your headline, update your summary, update your pictures, and you've really taken a big leap ahead. The next piece. Oh, we've got other questions. Shall I just carry on while I'm on a roll?
One other question.
The last question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, please. Yeah.
Yeah. The other question really is about frequency and how often, without annoying people, how often should you post content? And I think that feeds well into what you've been talking about being a thought leader.
Yeah.
Maybe being
how
a thought leader without being annoying.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've got six connections, then you posting content every day is going to be kind of annoying to those 6 people, especially if they don't have big connections. So I would say use some intelligence around, well, how big is my network and how regularly might I want to interact with that network. So if you've got, I think I've got 1,800 connections. Some weeks I won't post anything. Other weeks I might post 3 or 4 times. I might post, when I say a post, I might just like something. So if I go back to my homepage, probably every day I'm doing things like liking an update. That will push out to my network, right? My network will now see that I have liked Lua's post, so that will pop up in their news feeds. So I would say you can do that without really any kind of, control, overthinking it. But updates, I would suggest that in order to be a thought leader, you probably need to be in people's minds, or them seeing your content at least once a week, if not once a fortnight. And remember, not everyone's on LinkedIn every day. So I would suggest you're not being annoying unless you've got a very small network, and so do they.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just show you one last piece that I think is, I always get ahas when I show this in real time. So I'm just going to show you how to update your public URL. And before I do that briefly, I want to ask, I've only got 8 minutes, but like, do people Google themselves? And if not, you should Google yourself. I Googled myself for this as a demo. And you can see that me, Emma Nicole, on LinkedIn comes up as the first result, which is great. I've also got my Twitter and my Facebook. That's me, that's me, that's me. I'm trying to bump this girl in the bra off. Unfortunately, she keeps popping up. It's annoying. But, here's my post from the Government Finance Officers Association, which is great. I am number 1 here because my public URL is Emma Nicole. So it has a perfect connection to what I've typed in, Emma Nicole. So I would recommend that the number 1 thing you should be doing if you haven't done this already is to update your personal URL. Your public URL. You do that by clicking on the me, coming into this edit function, clicking edit your public profile, and then going ahead and updating it right here. So it'll have some random numbers and letters. You update that with your name, or if you've got a quite common name, it might be taken, maybe Emma Nicole 1 or Emma Nicole 82 or whatever you want to do. And that will improve how your results come when people Google you. Because let's face it, if someone's researching you, you want to be answering their questions, not having third-party content about you up top, or potentially, your other social media like Facebook or Twitter or whatever, presenting on behalf of your professional version of yourself. So that's a good tip. The other thing that I wanted to show you, the last thing, was I promised I'd show you how to update your profile to show that you're open to opportunities privately. And you do that by clicking up here, getting to settings and privacy, and coming through to privacy. The next thing you'll see is job seeking. So let's click on that, and you'll notice here there's 2 options. One saying sharing a profile when you click apply. So if you're looking at jobs, you click apply, it'll share your LinkedIn profile with that recruiter. You can turn that on and off, it's fine. But this is the one that I wanted to share with you. Let recruiters know you're open to opportunities. So if I click on that and hit yes, I can even update my career interests. And this will allow me to add a bit more information. So what do I want recruiters to know about me? What kind of work? Where? So perhaps I might be looking to relocate back to Australia. I could privately let recruiters know who are searching for people with my kind of experience, know that I'm more likely to respond to their outreach, and that these are the kinds of things I'd like to talk about. So a little tip, whether it's for now or the future, it's a cool setting and absolutely secure. So we won't let the cat out of the bag, as I promised.
Great. This is all really helpful, and I just updated my own URL, so maybe I'll have to Google myself and make sure that I'm not in the bathtub in those pictures.
Please do. Yeah.
Maybe the first step is not taking those pictures, right? Well, I don't see any other questions, and we had talked about trying to give back a couple minutes of folks' time. So I think we've come to the end of the webinar, and I want to express a huge thank you to Emma for the great presentation and all the tips. And really thank you to everyone who participated and sharing your time with ELGL. We recorded the webinar so that it will be available very soon online at elgl.org. And you can reference the stream of content and comments on Twitter at the hashtag ELGLTech. So feel free to go in there now, actually, and review and also put in your own comments. Do join us next month. August, we will be talking about tips and how to use smartprocure.com, which is a government procurement platform. And also want to make sure that we mention City Hall Selfie Day, which is August 15th. Remember to take those pictures, and there are a number of different categories on the website that you can win prizes and accolades. So do hashtag yourself with City Hall Selfie and win. So with that, I do want to end today's webinar, and thank you again. Thank you to Emma, and thank you again for your support with the participation in the webinar and support of ELGL. Thank you.
Thanks. It was a pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to get in touch if you need some support from me beyond this.